Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into Strange New World Season 1, Episode 6, called Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. This is a strong episode, not just because it tells a serious story, but because it leans into what Star Trek does best. Tough moral questions and no easy way out. And here's something worth noting. With this episode, we have officially crossed the halfway point of the season. We're talking about episode 6 out of 10, which honestly makes things a little frustrating. This episode sets up something heavy, something worth unpacking. But with the seasons moving at a breakneck speed, we don't get time to sit with the fallout. That's kind of a problem with modern Trek sometimes. There's so much effort going into multiple shows, each with short seasons, that we don't get enough time to actually follow through. I know we're not going back to 24 episode seasons of the old days, but even 15 to 20 would make a big difference. Episodes like this deserve space to breathe. And without that, even the strong ones can lose their impact over time. Now, I don't blame the writers or showrunners. This episode is beautifully done, and the story it's built on, it's legendary. But this is what happens with truncated storytelling. Great work fades faster than there's room to follow through. Now, if you're new here, thanks for tuning in, and if you've been with the show for a while, I appreciate you sticking out. Don't forget to follow or share if you're enjoying it, it really helps. Alright, let's get into it. This episode originally aired in June of 2022, right around that midpoint of Strange New World Season 1. At this point, the show had already started carving out its identity, returning to episodic storytelling, but with, of course, upgraded production and pacing. If you've been following interviews with the cast, you might have seen Anson Mount recently talk about how the writers approach this series, not just as Star Trek, but as a platform to explore different genres within Star Trek. Each episode leans into its own vibe, whether it's mystery, romance, horror, comedy. On paper, that sounds exciting, and sometimes it really works. But here's the issue. With only 10 episodes per season, those sharp tonal shifts can really feel jarring. There's not enough space to land emotionally before we're off to the next thing. And more importantly, Star Trek is a genre. It has its own rhythm, its own core ideas, its own moral and philosophical toolkit. So when we spend too much time jumping between other genres, we risk losing the Trek identity in the process, especially in seasons this short. Ideally, you'd keep the heart of Trek consistent, and maybe use 1 or 2 episodes every season to break form, not the other way around. And that tension is really felt in this episode. Look, it's heavy, philosophical, serious, but it doesn't get the room to breathe before the show moves on. That's not on the writing team, don't get me wrong. It's the cost of the format. Still, when this show is being Star Trek, it's some of the best we had in years. This episode begins with Enterprise rescuing a damaged shuttle under attack near the planet Majalis. On board are Uhura, a leader from Majalis, and an old flame of Captain Pike, apparently. We have First Servant, a gifted child with a mysterious but important destiny, and his father, a scientist from the planet's ruling elite. We quickly learn that the child is part of a ceremonial ascension critical to survival of Majalis. As Pike rekindles his connection with Uhura, an unsettling truth starts to unfold. First, the ship was attacked by a shuttle, a ship linked to the breakaway group from Omelas. One of the attackers was then connected to the Magellan Guard, sworn to protect the first servant. At first, it seems like he's a part of the radical terrorist plot. But here's the interesting part. When Uhura asks him why he betrayed his own oath, he says something along the lines, "Because I swore to protect the first servant." Honestly, at that point, it sounds like nonsense. Like a ramblings of a lunatic. Until it doesn't. Meanwhile, Dr. Mbenga continues his secret mission to cure his daughter. He sees a chance when he meets the first servant's father, hoping Magellan's advanced medical tech could help. But he's turned down. The technology stays on Magellan. That rejection stings. And it echoes the episode's deeper theme, what we're willing to give up for the comfort of others. That theme becomes painfully clear when Pike learns the truth. The first servant is being sacrificed. Literally, wired into the machinery of the planet. So their cities can float and their people can thrive. And the child? He accepts it willingly, but that's the tragedy of the entire episode. You see, we understand that from the moment this child was born, he was raised to believe that this was his destiny. That's not consent, because guess what? Kids are not capable of giving consent like this. It's the illusion of the choice. And honestly, it's horrifying. That's what hits so hard. And it's also what makes the story echo the original short story it's inspired by. For those of you who might have not heard, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas is the original story that basically talks about a child that's made to suffer for society's survival, presented with a fake sense of purpose. The episode never forgets, this is a child, and children believe what adults around tell them. That trust is sacred, and here it's twisted. The emotional loop closes with the boy's father. After the sacrifice, he returns to Mbenga and offers help. Not a cure, but guidance. A first step. He also says something along the lines that if he couldn't save his own son, maybe he can help someone else save theirs. And while all of this is unfolding, we also get a smart, subtle C-plot. Uhura, still rotating through departments as a cadet, is now on a security posting, with La'an as her mentor. At first, La'an seems harsh, even dismissive. But when Uhura is the one to connect the dots between the attackers and a breakaway group from Omelas, she assumes La'an will deliver the findings to the captain. Instead, La'an surprises her. It's your discovery, cadet. You're the one who should report it. It's a great moment for character growth. Not just for Uhura, but for La'an, most of all. Underneath that tough shell, she is a protective teacher. The kind who's hard on you because she knows space is dangerous. She just wants Uhura to be ready. Now, all three storylines, the sacrifice, the father's guilt, and the quiet mentorship, weave together in one heavy, complex episode. There's no neat resolution, no last-minute rescue. There's just cost of survival, paid in full. This episode is Strange New Worlds stepping into most philosophical territory so far. The central premise, a child's life traded for a civilization's survival, like I said, is lifted directly from Ursula K. Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. But the episode doesn't just borrow the idea, it kinda deepens it with some character work, story building, and quiet sense of tragedy. And a lot of that weight lands on the shoulders of the first servant, the incredibly composed, intelligent boy who speaks like someone far beyond his years. His neural implants have given him immense mental capacity. He's calm, articulate, even proud of his role. But the brilliance almost tricks you into forgetting that he's still a child. Then you see the moment with Rukia, Dr. Mbenga's daughter, and it all comes rushing back. And in essence, if you think about it, him getting her out of transporter buffer is akin to a kid sneaking into her room, curious and mischievous, because he wants to meet a new friend. It's innocent, it's sweet, it's child being a child. And suddenly the reality of what's about to happen to him hits even harder. This isn't just a mind in a child's body. This is a child. Curious, playful, too young to truly understand what's being asked of him. The way he was raised gives him no chance to say anything other than yes. There's no consent here, only programming. Ensign Mount gives Pike a quiet, furious strength in this episode. He doesn't explode with anger, but his silence in that final moment speaks volumes. His body language says everything. This is a moral wound Pike cannot fix, and he cannot forget. Now, let's talk a little bit about Majalis 2. On the surface, it does look like a paradise. We have floating cities, advanced medicine, and clean and ordered world. But honestly, it's a mirage. Uhura tells Pike at one point that they don't even know why the machine that powers their world requires a child's neural interface. She tried to find another way years ago but failed. That's terrifying. Not just because of what it means for the children, but what it says about the people in power. They don't understand their own technology. They don't understand their own success. They don't understand their own abundance. They're just repeating the rituals they no longer control. And that makes their so-called utopia fragile. You might squabble with this, but in my own opinion, a civilization that depends on suffering, especially suffering it cannot explain, is not a paradise. It's a system on life support. Sooner or later, it's going to collapse. The illusion of prosperity is just that, an illusion. Even the elite of Majalis live with the false sense of security. And when the system falls apart, they won't know how to fix it. And this is precisely why the episode works so well. It doesn't just show you injustice, it shows you how injustice hides behind order and how order becomes decay when no one questions it. Now this episode, like I said, deeply echoes Ursula K. Le Guin's 1973 short story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. It is a moral parable about a utopia powered by a single child's suffering. Le Guin's story is required reading in many philosophy and literature classes, and rightly so. And Strange New Worlds clearly pulls from it. So clearly that many fans like me assumed there had to be an official nod in the credits. But there isn't. And I double-checked, even on a rewatch. And this is where we need to talk about something probably very uncomfortable. This isn't the first time this happened in modern Trek. And it's not just about Le Guin. Season 1 of Star Trek Picard built its entire arc around Bruce Maddox, a character that was created in one of the most respected TNG episodes ever, The Measure of a Man. That episode was written by Melinda Snodgrass. She wasn't credited, not even a mention, and that's inexcusable. Unfortunately, this has become a pattern with Secret Hideout. The current production team behind Trek seems to be in a habit of taking inspiration from earlier authors, stories, and characters, and then erasing their names from the final product. And frankly, that's not just disappointing, it's despicable. Look, at the end of the day, we can debate story choices, we can disagree on a tone, on a pacing, direction. That's part of being fans of a big, long-running universe. But this is a basic respect. And if you're going to work in a franchise built by literally hundreds of writers, editors, directors, and creators, you credit the ones who came before you. None of these current shows exist in a vacuum. They're standing on the backs of decades of storytelling. And the people who built that foundation deserve to be seen. This isn't just about legal obligations. It's about ethical stewardship. So yes, this episode tells a powerful story. But the fact that its most obvious influence remains uncredited is a stain on the final product. And that's exactly why I do not want Secret Hideout to continue shaping the future of Star Trek. This pattern of ignoring legacy authors combined with their poor structural decisions and misguided direction for the franchise, in my opinion, completely disqualifies them. These aren't just creative missteps, they're ethical failures. Star Trek deserves better. Its history deserves better. Now, sorry for the rant, but sometimes I get really heated about that. Look, I am going to defend people's choices when it comes to story or direction. Let's talk about it. Look, there is no chance we can all be satisfied with what we see. It's okay. We don't have to be nasty about it. But this is insane. Like, we literally live in the age where AI is coming for all of our jobs. And guess who's first on the line? It's the creative arts. They're the ones who are on the line first. And yes, you might say it's very personal to me. I'm a graphic designer. I'm aware that the first jobs that are going to disappear one of them is going to be my job. And I get it. And maybe that's why I'm so freaking pissed off when I see this stuff. So anyway, let me not go into a whole different rant. Let's just move with this episode. Because it does deserve better than me having a rant in the middle of it talking about something so simple as actually giving credit where credit is due. Now, some Trek episodes you watch once and you move on. Others will sit with you. This episode lands somewhere in the middle of those two choices. On one hand, it really reminds me that some questions don't have answers, that some ideals don't win, that being good guy doesn't always lead to victory. And those are stories that stick with me, the ones that challenge me to look deeper. But on the other hand, it's hard not to feel like the story gets cut short. The events of Majalis are never brought up again, not in a single line of dialogue, not even in passing. And that lack of follow-up takes some of the weight out of what should be a defining moment for Pike and the crew. These characters saw something horrifying, and yet the story just disappears. That's where short seasons and fast pacing start to hurt. A story like this really does need room to breathe, and without that, it doesn't fully land the way it could have. Still, what this episode does get right is what Star Trek has always done the best. It doesn't exist to make us comfortable. It's here to ask hard questions, to challenge our values. And that's what makes Trek more than just sci-fi. It's literally a genre on its own. One built on thought, not just action. Alright, that's it for this mission debrief. If Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach made you think or left you unsettled, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What stayed with you the most? Would you have made a different choice than Pike? If you haven't already, follow or share the show. It really helps keep those reviews going. Next time, we're talking pirates. Matey. Okay, this was really bad. This obviously shows why I never became an actor. Anyways, until then, live long and prosper.